I'll go ahead and call us to order. Should I say it again? Okay, sorry. We're on the record now. Good evening and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for August 7, 2024. I will call us to order and ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, did we pass last night? Our thing passed.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is item number 3, which is approval of the agenda. And if there's no objection, I'd like to move up item number 10D, recognition of Malik Terrace Board Liaison Jesse Hoffman. Move that up to we'll make that 4B right after the consent agenda, unless there's any objection. Is there anything else for the agenda? Commissioners, anything else for the agenda?
Nope.
If not, with that change, I'll move that we adopt the agenda with that change.
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Teoflag. It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda items. In item number 4A, which with the claims vouchers for July 17, 2024, July 30th, 2024, a second group for July 30th, 2024, August 6th, 2024.
I move to pass it.
It's been moved by Commissioner Chan to adopt the consent agenda items listed in 4A. Is there a second? Commissioner Lawrence, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda items. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'll take that as a Commissioner Wittes, that's in favor, right? Yeah, okay, yes. So the motion then passes unanimously. That takes us to item number 4B, our amended item. And this is recognition of Malik Terrace Liaison Jesse Hoffman, who is here tonight. Good evening, Mr. Hoffman. If you don't mind coming forward to the microphone. And we have just for everybody, you're the last page in the packet. That's item number 84. And my suggestion is let's do the resolution first, and then we'll hear from our honoree tonight, Mr. Hoffman. So I'll move that we adopt resolution 07072024-12, which is a resolution recognizing Malik Terrace Liaison Jesse Hoffman.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Chan. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to say, I read the resolution. This is amazing that you have done for us. I really thank you.
Other discussion on the motion?
I just want to echo Commissioner Chan's input. Your balance, your objectivity, and your professionalism has really left an indelible mark on our processes here, and we really do appreciate it, and we'll miss you.
Thank you so much.
Is there other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, I appreciated Jesse's contribution. He actually knew what he was talking about as compared to, let's say, us when it came to governance and what cities have to go through. So he had a lot to offer and a lot for input that was very helpful during his time.
Commissioner Teoflag?
Yeah, I enjoyed working with Jesse. He's always very practical, level-headed. So he gave a lot of good guidance.
Board Liaison Swisher?
Jesse, I miss you already. I wish you the best of luck. And, you know, if you need a reference, reach out. I'm happy to be one.
Thank you so much.
And I want to say I appreciate all of the late nights that you spend with us on our 7 o'clock meetings, which comes at a price for your family, which is hard, but we appreciate your examining the issues, providing your advice, being in executive session, providing advice, and it helps the board make better decisions. It helps the chiefs make better decisions, and keeps us all kind of on the right path. So appreciate the time that you spent with us, and appreciate also your family for letting you spend the time with us. That's very, very generous.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny.
Would you introduce the well-dressed lady?
Guest here today?
Sure.
This is my daughter and the star of my whole life here,
Ah.
Katie Ellen.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
good evening.
Now you know where your daddy spent the evening, huh? Great. It's an important job that he did. All right.
Any other commissioner comments? Any other? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And Commissioner Wittes, we have an original here that we're going to give to Mr. Hoffman. Can I sign your name to that? Commissioner Wittes?
Yes, please, and thank you very much.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And so what we have is Commissioner Rowland is not on the Zoom. Okay, I just want to confirm that. So there we go. So we have an original of the we have an original of the resolution, and I'd like to present that to Jessica.
Should we read it? Which one to read it? Do you want to?
Oh, sure. Before you do that, Commissioner Chan corrected me. I should read the resolution into the record. It's very nice. Our resolution is whereas Liaison Hoffman was appointed to serve on the South County Fire Board in July of 2023. Whereas Liaison Hoffman demonstrated his commitment to public safety with his active participation on the board as a representative of the city of Mount Lake Terrace and by attending key events such as the Snow Isle Fire Commissioners Banquet. Whereas Liaison Hoffman played a key role in working through details of the fire marshal agreement between the city of Mount Lake Terrace and South County Fire. Whereas Liaison Hoffman shared expertise from his extensive career in public works to provide guidance on key topics affecting the citizens of South Snohomish County. Whereas Liaison Hoffman was a champion of transformation and safety with his participation in the RAISE program to improve Mount Lake Terrace's city infrastructure to enhance the delivery of crucial emergency services and improve safety for bicyclists and pedestrians in the city center. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South County Fire Board of Commissioners recognizes Jesse Hoffman for his public service and leadership to the firefighters, paramedics, and citizens of South County Fire and extends our gratitude. Adopted this day, 7th day of August, 2024. All right, Jesse, I'll turn it over to you for a few words.
Okay, my wife told me to talk slow, so if I talk too slow, let me know. It's been an honor to serve as the liaison to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners for the city of Mount Lake Terrace over the past year. This certificate of appreciation is a testament to the collaborative efforts that have strengthened our community as the South County Fire RFA has grown. First and foremost, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the Board of Commissioners for their unwavering support and dedication. Each one of the board commissioners brings a unique perspective to this body, which combine to create a greater whole. You have worked tirelessly to ensure that our residents receive the highest level of emergency services. Your commitment to public safety and well-being is truly commendable. I would like to extend my appreciation to Melissa Blankenship, the executive assistant to the board. Melissa's efforts behind the scenes have been instrumental in keeping board operations smooth and efficient. Her attention to detail and organizational skills are second to none. I would also like to thank Chief Robert Eastman, who has been a beacon of leadership. His vision, expertise, and tireless commitment to the South County Fire Department have inspired us all. Under his guidance, the South County firefighters and staff continue to perform their duties with excellence. And last but certainly not least, I want to recognize the incredible men and women of the South County Fire Department. They are the heartbeat of our community, the first responders who rush into danger when our residents are in the greatest need. Their courage, compassion, and unwavering dedication make our community safer every day. Thank you for this honor. May you continue to serve with pride and purpose in the years to come. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse. We appreciate you. Oh, Chief Maxwell.
I'm sorry that Chief Eastman wasn't here to hear that, but I'd like to speak on behalf of all the leadership team in here. We really appreciate you're just down to earth, common sense, and your passion. You were a true contributor to the team here, and we all appreciate you. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. And you can stay for the rest of the meeting, but you know how it goes. All right.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes for July 16, 2024. And I will move the adoption of those July 16, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Lawrence. It's been moved and seconded to approve those meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, that takes us forward in the agenda to item number 6, which is public comment. Is there any request for public comment? We'll start in the room first. Any public request for public comment in the room? Any request for public comment in the room? If not, we'll go on to Zoom and I will check with Ms. Blankenship. Do we have any request for public comment on our Zoom link?
We do not.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll come back to the room. Any last request for public comment? Not seeing any requests. Thank you. We will move on in the agenda then to item number 7, which is the fire chief's report. And good evening, Chief Maxwell.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners, liaison staff. If we could pull that up, thank you. Well, I think the first item on the chief's report is good news. I think it's just exciting news. I guess I look at this as a vote of confidence from our citizens, who I think we'd like to thank first. You know, they're the ones who support whatever level of service that we want to give, and this is really positive vote of confidence. I think there's a huge credit to the people in the streets. They provide a very effective, high quality service, and they touch our people every single day, over 100 times a day. And I think it comes down to our communications and our outreach team. They provide just a really simple, clear, effective message of the service we provide. And I think that's so important, because communication is hard, and they're doing something right. So, and I think everybody played a part in this. And lastly, I'd like to just thank the board for working on this and having this strategic vision. This will, this gives us some stability for the next 12 years, and it feels like we're in good shape. So thank you for that. The next topic, let's see, light rail. This is always an important topic with the board. Chief Isotelo told me that his ops and training division had an extremely successful drill last Saturday. And to quote Chief Isotelo, he said, "We are ready. If the drill went well, we're ready for the 30th." And that just felt good. We are ready. He's very confident in that. So was that Shoreline in us? Were there other participants too?
Yeah, mostly short.
Mostly Shoreline and South County Fire. And I guess we're seeing, it looks like they're practicing because they're seeing trains up on the rails right now, moving back and forth. Next slide, please. Looks like we had our reoccurring, I think it was 2009. It's been a while since we've had a fire out in the bog on the island there. And that one went on for days. Maybe we learned something. We got this one out and it stayed out. So that's impressive. That's really impressive because those bog fires get down there and they're really difficult. So we got out a lot faster this time. Yes, sir.
What caused this fire?
It's
Do we know?
suspected to have been a campfire. I think we hear that like there's a lot of people, kids get out on the island and do their thing. The crews reported a lot of garbage out there. So there's lots of people out there.
Oh, maybe the kids were cleaning up by burning the garbage, huh?
We can only hope. We can only hope. Next slide. Oh, and also, Christy and Leslie, they are getting a well-deserved night off. They worked really hard last night along with all of our outreach team. We were able to visit 25 different neighborhoods and events. We participated in all of our cities. And obviously the county area, they believe we reached thousands of people and yeah, super active last night. Reached a lot of people, really successful. Interacting with our community. And then we promoted a lot of people recently too. We've had a lot of movement. So we promoted Battalion Chief Todd Weigel to Deputy Chief. He has been with us over 20 years. I actually worked on the street with him when he first came here. He is a great guy, great positive attitude, a real leader and force in our organization. So we're excited to see him move up. Next one. And then Chief Don Welch, also Battalion Chief. He is also a mover. He is just a great down to earth guy that really digs in. He's been buried in his office all week since he got here. So we're really excited. He's a great personality, great character, great work ethic to have on our team. And then let's see the next one. Is Jay Ford. Bittersweet. He was an MSO being promoted to battalion chief. But Jay came to us from Edmonds Fire Department. He really grew a ton in his MSO position, especially through the pandemic. He was behind the scenes managing a lot of our PPE supplies, and he rose to the challenge and became a real leader in logistics and in some challenging times, and just did a great job there. I think he will do an amazing job as a battalion chief in our organization. And the next one, please. And then Travis Winston, he's been with us over 2 decades. He actually came to us many years ago from the Washington State Patrol. Just a great positive force as well in our organization, and he will be a great leader. Keep going. I have to remember all these. Sean Avenues, he's actually also a fire commissioner where he lives, but he has been promoting to him from firefighter paramedic to MSO. He has been a go-to for the EMS division whenever we have a struggling paramedic that needs a really good mentor. He's the tough love guy we send him to, and just does an incredible job strengthening medics that just need a little bit more mentoring. So he's been our go-to person for that. So I think he's perfect candidate for being an MSO. And then Robert Worth. Now we're getting down to the younger guys that I don't know as well. He is always has a positive attitude whenever I run into him, and I'm sure he'll do great stuff for us as well. And I'll slowly get to know everybody. All right, the next slide. Oh, and then this, in this year's budget, you funded a very comprehensive HIPAA audit, which we just completed. HIPAA is the federal law that took effect in 1996, and it's privacy, security, it's healthcare portability, it was a very comprehensive change to, I mean, it was precipitated to have really good security and privacy for our individual healthcare information. And we have worked with PWW. They're a national EMS law firm. We have worked with them probably for 20 or 25 years. They're probably the best national EMS law firm. We go to them with tough federal stuff, Medicare, Medicaid stuff that's at the federal level. And I put a few quotes up there, outstanding commitment to compliance. They go and do ride-alongs. They don't just come in here and look through stuff. They go out to the stations and they interview our people. And as you can see, we are definitely in the above average range. We have a few policy things that we're going to tighten up. You can always do better, but overall, they said we're obviously committed to compliance from top to bottom, and we got a really good grade out of that. And that completes my chief's report for tonight. Thank you.
Questions for Chief Maxwell? Commissioner Chan, then Commissioner Fernhoff.
Well, I'm really happy to see so much promotion. A lot of time people ask me about, what's the difference between us and other people? And I will always say that because I think we have so much opportunity for young, firefighter and paramedic to position to move up. And definitely, I really appreciate you guys probably guide them, to get the position. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the both deputy chief, what area they be working in?
Oh, sorry. Good question. They are,
Like Todd and then Don, yeah.
yes. No, that's a great question. They will both be working the fire marshal's position. Chief Anderson has been working on, a little bit of reorganization in there. Do you want to say a few quick words about it?
Yeah, so I think Chief Eastman went over one time how we envision fire prevention going with a fire code official. So your plan reviews, inspections, and code enforcement type of job scope work is on one end. And then after we identified the process where we own investigations on that level, we went with an investigations unit. So one will wrap around that side for leading the investigation side or investigators.
Oh, okay, so both of them will be working the fire marshal area.
Correct.
Okay, good. But I'm saying also too, I'm really happy that a lot of people are willing to come to the deputy position. Remember, we always had the problem, right? The battalion chief, they, makes lots of money and, don't need to come to work every day, that type of thing. And I'm glad you guys, we have that problem solved now?
I think you've set up a system through the last promotions where we're starting to get a lot of excitement on the line about succession.
Mhm.
I think this is an example of that. I think they're very excited to come up. We had a great turnout for this last testing process. It was surprising to see how many candidates actually jumped up out of the BC ranks to test. So I was pleased with it, but I do think it starts with the process that you started over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where we started filling these positions and creating that succession. We're starting to feel that.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Sean, that used to be our department so small, we kind of know majority of people now. Now I get, even as a commissioner, I think the whatever dinner we have, I think that's great, able to meet them some personally. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you. I do think I think we have lots of opportunities with recruitment and retention, but I think people do come to places where there is opportunity. And we welcomed our new PIO, Mr. Harder, and we talked about our communication team is good, our ops training, EMS, I called them we have a crack team here. So it's good quality people, I think, attract good quality people. And I think we have one of the best leadership teams that I've been able to work with. And I think it attracts people. I really do. And so I hope we can keep the momentum going.
And you get the best commissioners in the whole county.
No question.
Commissioner Fernhoff, I believe you're next.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations to all of those that were promoted for taking the time to do so and to have a vision with us and continued vision with us. That's important. I know my personal interactions with Battalion Chief Welch has been positive over the years, and we really do appreciate you very much and the willingness to come to the Puzzle Palace. There's, I may question your judgment later, I'm not sure, but thank you very much for doing so. And on a separate note, I wanted to just recognize the tactics that were involved with trying to put out a fire on the island. I think that's exceptionally good work to everybody because that had to, it was out of the box, right, thinking. I guess the only thing I would say, it would have been more impressive. I don't know how you'd do it if you actually got Marine 16 there, but yeah, that would have been a challenge, wouldn't it? Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I think part of that is our wildland team has evolved over the years. And we actually had another boat. We had 2 boats to ferry back and forth. So we had, more expertise and more equipment to handle it this time. So thank you for the nice words.
So is it time to buy a helicopter?
Well, that would help us get Marine 16 there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Maxwell on the chief's report? Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief Maxwell. All right, then, moving forward in the agenda is next up is item number 8, which is our legal report. Rich Davis is not available tonight, and we have Matt Paxton. Good evening, Mr. Paxton.
Good evening, commissioners, and greetings, Commissioner Wittes. I think the rest of the commissioners are familiar with me, but I am an attorney at CSD Law. Richard Davis and I, as well as a few other attorneys, are in the EMS and fire practice group. We are general counsel and are always with a busy district like you guys, looking at compliance issues. That comes in the form of election laws, employment laws, public records. Those have been, they typically come up, and it seems like they have in the last few months. We're also always looking at mitigating your risk. So we work with staff on contracts, both reviewing and drafting contracts. Last month, we worked with some of the partners like Mission Critical Protocols, Everett Community College, updating your ride-along waiver. And then we've also assisted recently in transactions, particularly one property transaction that kind of helps the organization grow. Those are really the focus of our last most recent efforts for South County Fire. Sometimes I give an update on recent news, but not having known what Richard might have reported to you already, I'll just leave my legal report at that. Unless there are any questions from the commissioners, I'd invite those.
Any questions for Mr. Paxton from the board members? Any questions? Not seeing any requests for questions? Great. Thank you, Mr. Paxton.
Thank you.
Was there a question?
No, just waving goodbye.
Okay. All right, next up, moving forward in the agenda, we have item number 9, which is the union report, and we have Local 1828 President Pat Moore with us tonight. Good evening, President Moore.
Good evening, commissioners. I apologize, I wasn't here to hear the full chief's report, so I don't know if some of this was already mentioned or not. I'm on duty today, so I was on a call, but basically, I'm hoping that you guys were informed of the passing of retired member Dean Warren. He passed away from a line of duty death, presumptive cancer. And so we were able to this weekend spend a little bit of time with his family over in Eastern Washington. And I know they're appreciative of the support that's been being given by the organization. So unfortunate news there that that happened. But outside of that, obviously happy with the benefit charge renewal. It's looking like right now. So it's looking like it obviously is going to pass. So happy about that. We're obviously watching Everett and the Mukilteo propositions, and already had some conversations with Everett's local as of last week too, about concerns what would happen if their if this levy passes, or if the proposition doesn't pass, sorry. So, outside of that, though, I think, that's kind of all I got for you guys tonight on a report from me. So unless you have any questions.
Questions from the board members for President Moore? Any questions? I did want to make a comment, President Moore. I wanted to thank Local 1828 for its support of the fire benefit charge measure. And I also wanted to thank you personally for your personal support and involvement with that proposition. So thank you to both Local 1828 and to you. And of course, thanks to our voters who made it happen, but your involvement was very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That takes us forward then in the agenda to item number 10, which is our unfinished business. And we'll start with item 10A, which is the preliminary 2025 revenue forecast and revenue planning update. And this is with our Chief Financial Officer, Chris Bothwell. Good evening, Mr. Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. So tonight I have the 2025 revenue forecast, and the purpose of this forecast is to inform subsequent steps in the budget process regarding the amount of resources that are going to be available to fund services next year. So there's three aspects of the forecast that I'm going to talk about tonight. The first is the forecast assumptions, and these are foundational to the results of the forecast. So I'll walk you through the significant assumptions that we made. The second one is the summary results. So I'll share with you what the total results are for the general fund. I will walk you through the top 5 revenues. And then I have 2 related matters. The first one is a revenue recommendation that we're going to make, and that's related to ambulance transport rates. And then finally, we'll revisit the long-term revenue strategy that we worked on last fall and talk about where we are in that planning. So starting with the assumptions, the forecast that's in your packet that I'm going to talk about tonight assumes historical increases in property tax and the benefit charge. And those historical increases are the 1% that's allowed under state law plus a tax on the value of new construction, which averages about 1% a year as well. So the forecast assumes a 2% increase in both property taxes, that's the general fire levy, and the EMS levy, and the benefit charge. The second notable assumption is the contract revenue will grow by inflation. I noted on this slide as CPIW. That is the primary driver for the cost of that contract, and so we've increased it by that. The fire marshal contract negotiations will follow the current trajectory. That's an assumption that we're making based on the current negotiations of those contracts. And what we've assumed is that the balance of the contracts that are under negotiations will follow the map or the model that Mount Lake Terrace is currently, the contract that's been approved by them and by us. And then investment income will decrease due to changing market conditions. And I'll show you what the value of that is in a sec. So now I'm on to the summary results. So overall, the general fund revenue is estimated to increase by $1.3 million or 1.2%. I put a slide or a table on this slide to show you the 2 largest positive movers and the 2 largest negative movers. The first is property tax. That 2% that I spoke about generates about $1.4 million to the positive. The Edmonds contract, the inflationary adjustment to that will generate about an additional $414,000. On the negative side, we have the fire marshal contract revenue will decrease by a little over $1 million. And then investment income based on the expected changing market conditions will decrease by about $140,000. So about 96% of our revenue comes from 5 sources. And so I'm going to walk you through those in a little more detail. The first one is property tax. So like I said, the forecast assumes a 2% increase that we historically increase it by for both EMS and general fire levy, and that includes the 1% that's allowed under state law plus new construction. The general fire levy has significant bank capacity of a little less than $8 million, and the forecast assumes that that is not used. So in the chart on this slide, you'll see the actual levy for 2024, and you can see that increases through 2030 by 2% per year. So just a steady increase there. And then the smaller, the blue bar is the bank capacity. And so we're showing that just continuing on at its current rate.
Do you have a question?
Sorry, Commissioner Tiafla.
For the bank capacity, $8 million. Do you know if we, as a group, wanted to use all the bank capacity, how much would that cost, like on average, the average taxpayer, do you think? Would it be like another like $50 a year, do you think, or?
It's a really great question. So it would be about a 10% increase
Gotcha.
on the average taxpayer.
Okay, that makes sense. 'Cause everyone has a different amount, so that's good to know. Is there does the argument make sense that using the bank capacity and like funneling that into our capital facilities bucket? Is that a more efficient way to get money for that need as opposed to borrowing it? Because there's no interest cost to us and vice versa. We actually earn interest on the money.
Efficient, I would have to think about. It's certainly another option. It would be a slower option though, because obviously you would have to kind of build as you go, rather than getting, with a bond, obviously you get all the money up front and then pay it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would save, taxpayers over the course of the projects, we would save the interest charges. Yeah. The difficulty that you would have with using the bank capacity is that as we kind of progress, the state law still kicks in and only allows the 1% increase on that per year. So any year that construction costs are increasing more than 1%, basically the value of that levy would go down. And so the value of those dollars would, relative to the construction that you're attempting to fund with them, they would become less valuable as time went on. And that's not going to be relevant in years where we have low inflation, but recently we had really high inflation in construction costs, and so that would be something that would be a consideration that you'd want to.
Okay. When would we, if as a group, when would we need to make a decision by to get the bank capacity?
Just when you pass the regular property tax levy in November.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so this next top 5 revenue is the Edmunds contract revenue. We're increasing that by 3.6%, which is the cost of living adjustment that's required under the labor contract. That cost of living, or the cost of our labor, is the primary driver for the cost of that contract. So that's why we're using that number. There is no chart on this one because it's difficult to know how to forecast this revenue because the current contract goes away at the end of 2025. So the revenue is not speculative in 2025, but beyond that, it is speculative. And we have a policy that prohibits us from putting speculative revenue into the budget. And so this is just sort of a wait and see. We're just, I think, kind of looking for cues from Edmunds about what direction they're going, and then we'll make a decision about what to put in the long-term forecast as we get closer to publishing a budget book. The third one is ground emergency medical transport, GEMT revenue. This is sort of an odd one. We would normally have the data about what we would receive for 2024 by now, but the agency that actually calculates that is a little slower this year. And so they're still working on those calculations. So we don't know what we're going to get for 2024. So the forecast assumes that we're just going to get the budgeted amount, which is based on a 3-year moving average. But we'll keep you updated on this. I think based on the way that the costs are calculated and our costs for their fiscal year that we submitted, we should probably beat our budget by at least a small margin. So I think this is a very conservative assumption, but we'll update you as soon as we have that number. And then what you'll notice is in this chart in 2026, you'll see that ground emergency medical transport revenue takes a dive. We know that there are changes coming to the way that they calculate our costs for those services, which will affect the reimbursement that we get from them. Those are not likely to be implemented in 2025, but they're still on the table and still being negotiated. The year of implementation is kind of a question mark at this point. So we're showing it in this version of the forecast happening in 2026 and just kind of guessing based on the information we have that it's going to be about a 25% reduction. But again, as this topic develops, we'll keep you in the loop on that.
Can I stop it there?
Yeah, Commissioner Chan has a question.
Yeah, can you tell me, refresh my memory of what was the reason of the calculations? Why it's changed?
Did you want that?
Yeah, so the Medicare and Medicaid, they're changing the agreements, or they wanted to change the agreements with the state, and they wanted to change the calculation, whereas, we brought PGE and came in and did a full calculation of our services, which is, it is the full cost of providing EMS. And they were proposing to change it only to when we transport somebody. and create a whole new way to calculate it, which would be a significant decrease. There's a groundswell at the state level with the I chiefs who I work with. We started lobbying our legislators pretty hard. They were moving very hard to make this change, and we basically got it paused. So that change has been paused for the moment while we try and do some more advocacy. Fortunately, that pause meant we kept getting what we were in the past based on the old calculation, and we'll continue to fight that fight with the legislature.
So we brought in someone to do the, so we brought in someone to help us to calculate the total cost versus the only the carrying cost.
Yes, we've done every year. Yeah, we have a contracted consultant that calculates and does all that for us. Yes.
As they do not agree to that total cost, is that what it is?
They calculate it based on the state rules.
Mm.
So they're making sure we get it right because we get audited. So they just help us with the calculation and help us get everything correct with it. They're not, I mean, they help as a subject matter expert in advocating for us, but they're more of a calculator and a audit assister.
So in a sense that they don't including the overhead cost versus just the actual transportation cost itself. Is that?
Like if they were to recalculate it?
Yeah.
Yes, if they're to recalculate, they're gonna theoretically base it on a lesser evaluation. You know, there's been talk of basing it on
Of the direct cost rather than
the
the overhead
direct cost
cost.
of transports. Right now, we're able to calculate in our community paramedic services, our engines that do EMS.
Right.
We're able to do a much broader calculation, and they want to narrow what they base our reimbursement on.
So there's a big movement trying to legislation, right? We want trying to.
Well,
Okay.
our lobbyists and advocates, we're pushing back, and especially coming off right after the pandemic, showing that we're a critical service and we need those funds.
Yeah, and it's pretty common in accounting. They just say, oh, just direct cost, no overhead costs allocated, but you cannot function ambulance without the overhead cost to it, right?
Right.
And that's it.
Right. I don't know how much we want to delve into this, but yeah, we were told some of the really big, like New York City Fire was going to come on board, and the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, that was going to be a big addition in costing to this. And I think that got their attention is what we were told. And so
Well, but you can see the graph is huge reductions in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be more. We don't know yet. We never got to the implementation phase. We were able to head it off so far.
Okay. If you need political support or whatever, let me know. I'll see if I can really voice out the difference in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next major revenue is benefit charge. This one also is increased in the forecast by 2%. That's based on the historical increases. This chart is the exact opposite of the property tax chart in that the orange bar is actually our capacity and the blue bar is the actual charges. And so the benefit charge has 50+% of the operating budget as capacity. So over $50 million of capacity in the benefit charge. And the final one is ambulance transport revenue. And the forecast is based on a 3-year moving average, just like the GEMT. We've seen some recent increases in 2020 or in the ambulance transport revenue, and I reported that trend to you for several quarters. And so we have included 2024 data. The first half data, we doubled it in this forecast. And so you're seeing a pretty significant bump there in 2025 in the budget forecast. And it appears that that was going to be pretty realistic. The orange bar or the orange portion above the bar starting in 2025, that's additional revenue that's resulting from a recommendation that I'm going to make in a subsequent section. And what we're recommending is that we increase our ambulance transport rates, and there'll be more on that in just a minute. But I did want to point out there is a typo in your packet. One of the assumptions that's noted in your packet is that this, the recommended increase in rates is one of the assumptions in the forecast, and it's actually not. So I apologize. I caught that after it had been published. So now we're on to the recommendation. So this is a recommendation that staff would like to include with the budget packet when we advance that for your consideration. Our ambulance transport rates have not changed since the RFA was formed in 2017. And our current rates are 29 to 44% behind comparable Snohomish County agencies. And I included the table that's in your packet on this slide, but it's probably easier to see in your packet. What you'll notice is that our rates are the lowest of comparable agencies in Snohomish County. So our recommendation is to move our ambulance transports rates to the median of the comparable entities, and that calculation of median is also in that table. It only affects commercial insurance payers, so Medicare, Medicaid, they aren't influenced by the rates that we actually adopt. So the increase that we estimate that would result from moving to the median is about $400,000 annually. And just as on the previous slide, I won't go back, but on the previous slide, you can see, kind of get an idea of how large that is compared to our overall receipts. The second part of this recommendation is that we would establish a policy to administratively update rates annually by inflation. And the purpose of that policy would be just to prevent us from falling behind in the future. All right, and we're on to my final agenda item here, and this is long-term revenue strategy update. Last fall, we worked on a long-term revenue strategy, and the successful benefit charge renewal was kind of the first step in that. And so I wanted to bring this back up and show you where we are and kind of what our next steps are for the rest of this year and into next year, and then subsequent years after that. So I only put the table. This is actually the table from we republished the revenue strategy. I just put it on here to give you an idea if you want to identify, if you want to see it in your packet materials, but I don't expect that you can read this. So I pulled out the applicable pieces. The next step after ballots are counted was to do a RFA plan amendment to recognize the extension on the benefit charge. We had that scheduled for August 20th, so just in 2 weeks. After that, the capital facilities plan updates, if applicable, are noted as the next item. And then the third after that is a CFP funding plan. So that's just marrying up a funding plan with whatever the capital facilities plan is, whether it's updated or it's what was adopted before. And that gets us through 2025. In 2026, we're looking at a CFP funding plan implementation and consideration of ballot measure to fund the CFP. 2027, we have an EMS levy renewal that's coming up. And then in 2025, what we have is to apply the guiding principles, and that we may need to consider a general fire levy lid lift in, somewhere around 2028 or thereafter. And just a reminder, those guiding principles were just a suggestion. It's not a policy, but it just gives staff a cue of when it's time to come to you and have a conversation about how far the levy's degraded and whether or not it might be time to consider something. So for next steps, just happy to take any questions and hear any comments you have about the revenue mix or anything that I presented tonight. And then I think I have on the agenda after this with an inflation impact analysis that I'll get into in just a minute as well.
Commissioner Furnoff.
Thank you, CFO Bothwell. Really appreciate that detailed report and all the work that staff has put into it. Obviously, that just doesn't fall out of the tree easily. I have a question regarding ambulance transport. Is it still the policy of our organization if somebody is unable to pay that we do not send them to collections?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just want to put the public's, mind at ease for those folks that might have anxiety about rate increases. Really, it's about insured folks that have the ability to pay and those that do not have the ability to pay. That's still business as usual.
Yep, that's a great point. We don't do balance billing and we don't send anybody collections. So
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Other questions? Commissioner Teofly.
Another big capacity question. If we were to use some big capacity, what would that impact? Would that increase a certain levy?
yeah, it's applicable to the general fire levy. So that's our larger of the levies. EMS does not have any bank capacity. So yeah, it would be the general fire levy.
Okay. And so in 2028 is maybe when we would go to the voters to increase that levy?
Right. I mean, that's the suggestion, or that's probably the next thing after
Yeah.
the EMS levy renewal. We would need to use the bank capacity before we went out and asked for a levy lid lift. But
Gotcha.
at that point, there's a pretty good chance by 2028 that our levy will have degraded pretty significantly below. You may recall we have $1.50 capacity just because of who we are. With the benefit charge, that gets cut down to $1. We're going to be, I would imagine that by 2028, we're going to be significantly less, probably in the 60-70 cent range or something like that. And so it would be a good time to consider going back out and getting some of that back. It all depends, of course, as you know, on what property values do between now
Yeah.
and then.
And so, when we, in 2028, if we go to voters and they approve the $1, that doesn't mean that we have to charge them the $1. We can do whatever we
No.
want, essentially.
Right. Yeah. It's a lid lift. So it just says that's the maximum. We could
Gotcha.
levy anything we want under that.
Okay. Does staff, can staff think about, more of the bank capacity? See if it makes sense to use any of it? Unless you already have a opinion already.
Well, that is one of the tools that we'll have to balance the budget. So with the chief's preliminary budget, he will take a position basically kind of for staff or for the administration on how much, if any of that to use.
Okay.
And then if that becomes something that we want to fund capital with, that would be something that he would likely propose. I mean, that's sort of his proposal to the board for how he sees that shake out. If there's any specific like data points that you think would be useful, just communicate those to me or to the chief, and we'll definitely get those back to you. Any forecasting or modeling that you want us to do, we're happy to do that too. But that'll be his formal proposal will include how much we should be funding from the general fire levy.
Okay.
And whether or not we exercise any bank capacity would be explicitly stated in his preliminary budget.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm open
Chief
to it.
Eastman's closely looking at all those things you're talking
Okay.
about to bring that to the board.
Yeah. One thing that Chief Eastman said in the past was how he doesn't want like a taxpayer to like have taxes go like this, where you would have to be gradual. And so that's what I would like as well. So if we're gonna start using bank capacity, like maybe $1 million or $2 million of the 8, so that there's not a big jump in the future.
Yeah, I don't want to get out in front of the chief or of course the board. But I do know the chief is analyzing that and is going to bring a package of funding options or ideas aligned with his requests. I know he's working closely on exactly what you're talking about to
Okay,
bring
great.
that to you.
Cool. Thank you.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, can you see, I always ask the presentation copy. I know you have some information there. I'd like to see the presentation. Can I get a copy of it?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I was just reminding the board that on the transportation, we have our finance committee look at that and basically give the okay. So we were supported by it. And also I like to say that I kind of agree with Chris that we have been, ever since I'm here, we always gradually do the levy rate. And we are very in general, we're pretty consistent with the awareness of I think right now we're one of the lowest levy rates in this area, right? And I would like, is to keep a balance in there, right? But then at the same time, as a board, we need to know there's a lot of time that we need expenses to help our operations. We cannot just on that. So, but we will do very carefully, and we would increase slowly. And I think that all the city have joined us. We are really serious about that balance in there. And I know a lot of city annexing did the worry about there's no control. I think the rest of the board are very conscientious of that, and we want to keep it low. Thank you.
Other questions from the board on this section of the agenda? If not, I think we're going to move on then to Mr. Bothwell's second presentation, which is the inflation update. Unless, am I incorrect? Did you have anything more?
Nope,
You ready
that's
for the
it. Perfect. Yeah,
inflation?
thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to inflation.
All right, so this is just the inflation impact analysis, and the purpose of this is just to let you know what the level of inflation that we're dealing with this year in this budget is starting to look like. So this is intended to be really high level. We'll get more detail on this topic as we move forward in the budget process. In 2 weeks, we've got the expenditure forecast, which I'll layer in a little more detail. And then, of course, when the chief's preliminary budget comes out, that'll be the full detail. So our labor contract relies on the June to June CPIW for our area for cost of living adjustments. And that affects not only the salaries and wages that we pay to those folks, but also just about all the benefits that they get as well. So it really affects just about all of our labor costs. And we know that those are about 80% of our budget. And so that was 3.6% national CPIU. So this is like headline CPI. That was at 3%. So in terms of just bringing something to you to kind of to ballpark the impact of inflation on the 2025 budget, I used 3.6% for our labor costs and then headline inflation for all of our other costs. And I put a chart on here just to show you kind of where we've been with inflation. And the dates on the bottom, or the years on the bottom, those are the years that the budget was affected. Those aren't the years that the CPI numbers came out. So in 2021, the CPI came out at 6.3%. That affected the 2022 budget. So you'll see that. And then in 2022, for 2023, we had 9.5%. Last year or this year, we were at 4.5%. And now we're at 3.6%. So things are heading in the right direction, but it's still pretty high. And I'll show you why that is the case, or how the impact that has on our budget. So our labor-related inflation cost increase is about $3 million for 2025. Our non-labor related inflation cost increase is about $650,000. So we've got about $3.6 million just in inflationary costs. So this is how much our budget is kind of estimated to increase just to provide the same services, same level of service that we're currently doing, that we're currently providing in 2024. The forecasted revenue increase, and this is from the previous presentation, was about $1.3 million. And so we've got a delta of over $2 million there that we just have to deal with just to keep things, just to provide the same level of services that we're currently providing. And I know that it frequently, the folks who don't really understand our taxing structure in Washington are sort of like, look at that and think like, there might be something that we can do to control that. The inflationary increases we have very little control over. And so this is sort of this is a systematic issue. It's often referred to as a structural deficit that causes this problem without us changing anything. We have, over a 2% issue with our budget just going into it. And so it's a challenge every year. And I just wanted to highlight it again and put some numbers to it. So there's more to come on this. I've got the expenditure forecast scheduled for presentation in 2 weeks, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, and we'll have put some refinement to these numbers. And that's what I had for you on that one.
Questions from the commissioners for the inflation report? Any questions? Commissioner Chan, question?
Oh, actually, not inflation. I think one thing that in the past, we always look at the newly built permits and newly increased building. Can we take a look at that too? I don't know what has been, because right now when I drive down to Linwood, I saw the tall building going up, right? So on one hand, there's very good revenue in there, but on the other hand, I think the cost of serving this building is significant. I think we have a casual discussion because going vertical, just by going up on the elevator, just increasing our response time for 2 minutes. So we got to really balance out. Okay, on one hand, in the past, we're always happy, right? We got newly built building, we got more taxes, but at the same time, that we're affecting our costs to service this building, because we still want to get a very good, balance of response time. So I think maybe a finance committee take a look at that, add a plus or minuses in that area.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just the simple math exercise of saying we're going to get X number of dollars from new construction doesn't have anything to do with the additional demands for services. So,
right. Well, 10, 20 years ago was pretty good, right? The big new development, you got real money, but now it become a trouble. I mean, we need to analyze it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Other questions for Mr. Bothwell? I did have a question from page 65 of I'm looking at page 65 of the packet regarding the long-range forecast. You noted on there, the 2024 budget assumption was, yeah, two numbers on there, 2.63% and 2.69%. And that's, it's a little, I mean, that's a little low. And so I'm wondering, are you going to update that for, I mean, at this point, we'd be talking about, for 2025, 2026, are you going to update that to at least? I mean, I'm going to say just kind of thinking into the past when we've kind of had just a estimated number. A lot of times we've used 3%. And so that seems like something, I didn't know if those were based on something specific from the past year, because they
Yeah.
seem pretty low for where we've been with inflation, even though inflation it's running better now than it was a year and a half ago. And I'm wondering what that means for your prediction for that you're going to plug in for the 2020, I guess at this point, 2025 and 2020 or 2026 budget.
Yeah, so we'll update that for the 2025 actual inflation. And then those numbers aren't just a flat, on average, we go up 3% or something. Those are actually based on it's a blended rate between the King County Office of Economic Policy. They issue a forecast for CPIU and CPIW. And then we also use the Puget Sound Forecaster. So we blend those two rates, and that's what we use for the 6-year or the long range forecast. And so we'll update those. And I agree, it's sort of a, I mean, I think I don't want to say it's a big miss, but it's a pretty big difference. We wouldn't normally expect to see a full 1% difference between what they're forecasting and what we actually see. I think it's sort of indicative of the times that we're in. We're in sort of a weird period with Fed policy and how quickly they can bring down inflation. That's really the highest we've seen in decades. And so, yeah, I think that they were a little optimistic about how quickly they'd come down. We'll take a look at their forecast. If it's possible we'll layer something else in if they continue to kind of miss the mark by that big. But both sources last year were showing numbers that even at the time were like, it seems a little low. I don't know how it's going to come down that quickly, but
Yeah.
You're right. And there is a note right below that. I calculated the cost associated with that. The difference between those rates and the actual rates that we're looking at implementing is $827,000. So it's not insignificant.
Yeah. Well, and now that you mentioned it, I do recall us talking about those two forecasters and thinking about them as to what to calculate the rate in for future years. So those are both reputable sources. It just seems based on observation and experience, that'd be pretty low.
Yeah.
Even now, as I'm thinking, if you said next year was going to be 2.6, I'm like, I don't know. Seems more like 3 would be a more comfortable number, but
Yeah.
I guess they are the experts, so something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely be a little more skeptical this year when we look at that forecast and see what they're coming back with and see if it does make sense for us and try to be conservative. We do have a policy that says that our budgeting, the assumptions we make in our budget will be conservative. So if we determine that those forecasts are a little too optimistic for us, we could always, add a little of our own, influence those a little bit as well. So I think that's a great comment.
Other questions for Mr. Bothwell on the inflation report? If not, great, thank you. That takes us forward in the agenda then to item number 10C, sorry, that's the 2022 and 2023 1756 reports for approval. And let me turn that over to Chief Maxwell. And I think that's starting at page, that item is starting at page 66 and of the packet.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Kane. Yeah, those were, I wasn't planning on giving a brief on those. Those were being submitted for your approval tonight, I believe.
Chief Maxwell, anything to add on I know we talked about those at the previously, and I didn't know if there's anything to Anything you had to add regarding those?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't actually prepare anything additional to add. We met our compliance reports. Some of these, as we've spoken about in the past, some of these can be, outdated. We are meeting our legal requirements. I think as far as our service goes, we exceed that in the service we deliver. And we're meeting the letter of the law by doing these compliance reports. And that would be what I would have to add on that.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board members? Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, I know that, I remember we had the discussion trying to say, why don't we increase the response time so that we don't, but I still believing we should strive to it. And rather than kind of increasing it, because we still will try all we can to lower response time, because otherwise, if every time we become realistic, just keep on increasing then really not a good benefit to anyone.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Commissioner Chan. I guess I would kind of say what I brought up last time. I've done considerable amount of work on key performance indicators. That I chaired our committee to set key performance indicators for emergency medical services in the state. I was actually on the federal committee that set key performance indicators for EMS. There's a lot of philosophical conversations about that, but they kind of support what you're saying. If you move that bar up, people will reach that bar or move it. So I agree in keeping them where they're at, because if you take 8 minutes and change it to 10, you'll probably reach 10. So it's just human nature. So I agree with what you're saying.
But especially, but if you had a attack, you don't want that to move up.
No,
Right.
no, you don't. But yeah, and I probably didn't explain myself very well last time, but there's some very interesting human performance science, which is kind of my realm on that, around where they've messed with speed limits, and they'll raise speed limits and to avoid less tickets or whatever, and people will see that as a target, and so people will drive faster when you're so there's some interesting psychology around that as well.
So that, it doesn't mean a cost. I think what we have to be, we have been always known to be think out of the box. How can we do it with new technology, with new way to do it, and trying to meet that challenge?
No, I agree. I think maybe some of these laws should be maybe updated. I think the quality and effectiveness of what we do when we get there, some of the science are showing may be more important than response times.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I think we're ready to move forward then on a motion. I'll move that the board approve the 2022 and 2023 1756 performance compliance reports. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those compliance reports. Is there any discussion on the motion? I do have one item that I just want to offer to Chief Maxwell. We keep talking about these as the 1756 compliance reports. The reason that we do that is because they were originated in Substitute House Bill 1756, but that's from years ago. And it gets confusing because 1756 can also be a somewhat more recent bill in the legislature. And so it's just, as time goes by, 1756 is kind of a term of art that we use, but probably isn't the best term to refer to it. They really refer to performance compliance reports. And we may want to kind of change the way we speak about it, because the average person watching this, you say 1756 report, or I say it, 1756 report. Nobody knows what that is. And it's actually kind of an archaic reference. And so going into the future, we may want to talk about it more as performance compliance reports, because that's really what it is. And it's okay for us to have a shorthand of 1756, because most of the time we know what we're talking about, but I'm not sure that the average person does. And we actually have a good story to tell with our performance compliance reports, and the fact that we even do them is a good thing. So I just offer that as a I deal with legislative issues in my non-fire world work, and so just I would offer that as as something I have observed on laws that are passed over time and the reference to them. So, any other discussion on the motion to approve the 2022-2023 compliance reports? If not, we will move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree. That would probably be more accurate. We'll probably call it the compliance performance report, and we'll reduce that down to an acronym and call it the CPR report, and we'll be confused again.
We have that way of doing things now. All right, very good. Well, that moves us forward in the agenda. For the record, we already took care of 10D at the start of the meeting. That takes us then to item 11 in committee reports, starting first with the Capital Facilities Plan, or Capital Facilities Committee and Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, Value Village property. The mitigation for the land is getting close to being wrapped up, if I remember. The hospital district would rather it happen quicker, but then they didn't have to spend the money. So the money from the Department of Ecology and other source grants paying for this, and also the staff is working on ideas of what we can do with that property, including joining forces with the city of Edmonds, building a 20-story building. Wasn't that right? Oh, no, it was 20 stories. Okay. Anyway, so the Value Village, it's moving along. And for the North Lake property, North Road property, they're starting to get down to design of the building, and a couple of unique things are cropping up, going from 3 rooms to 6, kind of future proofing. And then they propose that the staff proposed the board actually give the political our input on whether we have public meeting rooms. And so the board needs to put that on the agenda and have a good discussion about it and make the policy for that. That's about it, I think.
That was great. Thank you.
Any questions from the board for Commissioner Lawrence or the committee? Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, so it's go up to all the way to on the 6th floor.
The top floor, the penthouse, that's mine. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
No, I think that's a very good idea, because I think mentioned many times there will be my vision, or I think City of Edmonds is probably interested in renting some of the space. And also, I think the whole area is going to be like the first hill of Seattle, which a lot of senior citizens live by, a lot of clinic. It used to be my own clinic is right there in the area. So I think hopefully that will balance out our expenses with the revenue coming in as a source of income to us. I think that's a very good plan.
Yeah, there was just learning of a similar plan in a California fire department where they did exactly that. They had response, and then admin, and then they rented. But as the department grew, they were able to have 2 floors of admin. So it was also scalable.
Right.
Well, one more thing I just remembered, we're running out of storage space for stuff. And so that's an issue for the staff, figuring out what to do. So, thank you.
Okay, next up is the Finance and Human Resources Committee, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, we'll be have a meeting next week. I think I'm going to get some input from my committee member, what else you want to talk about after the meeting. And also I'm going to work with CFO in here and work out some of the agenda.
That brings us then to Intergovernmental Committee, Commissioner Wittes.
Hey, how are you? We did not meet this week. We're meeting next Monday.
That sounds good. Thank you. And then finally, we have Snow 911 with Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, good evening. The meeting addressed the lease sites and updates. There are various locations. They have towers, and so the leases were renewed. They have a projected 2025 budget right now. That kind of some of the highlights on that. They'll be adding some additional positions here in the next year. 42% of the budget is going for repairs and maintenance that they have allocated, and it's an overall increase of about $3,000 to $20,000 for this increase. Nothing too exciting other than the new facility is slated to open in mid 2025. That concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Fernhoff. Any questions? Commissioner Fernhoff on the Snow 911 report? No, very good. Thank you. All right, that moves us forward in the agenda to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments? Any Commissioner Chan?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I just have to say, I don't know, everybody talk about, we have.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Mike. There we go.
Yeah, on August 1st, the nonprofit organization I involved with Asian Service Center, we have a Dragon Boat Festival out in the Waterfront Center in Edmonds, and we have mayor, the city councils, and everybody's in there. It turned out really good, and I'm very thankful for Chief Maxwell and also Chief Anderson there. And we had to thank the Marine 17 was there, also kind of training in there, and that was a good and very. We have a good coverage of televisions and the press. I think more importantly, people saw the 17, they feel safe being there, and also in the Waterfront Center, talk to you about the ACT thing and.
Yeah, we had a few directors come up and ask us how to get some more efficient first aid for their programs in the city of Edmonds. And so we were able to talk about the ACT program. They're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, for people who don't know it, that was a senior center. Remember, there's a big problem. Remember the crossing and with so many citizens in there situation. I think the South County Fire really demonstrate that they really need us in the area. So I want to thank all the people over there working, especially the people on the Marine 17. They were really helping. I mean, feel comfortable when people go in the Dragon Boat.
Other commissioner comments? I'd like to thank Chief Eastman and his staff for all the work that was done on the benefit charge renewal levy. I know we talked about it earlier, but in commissioner comments, I wanted to say that I appreciate all the work that's been done. It's a lot of work, and it was a great result. And I think it shows that the public trusts us and the work that we do, and we've earned that trust, and we need to keep that trust. And it's valuable when you see that response from our bosses. We go to our bosses every so often. This was an example of it, to find out, will they support the things that we're asking for in the direction? In this case, it wasn't an actual monetary item; it was a tool, and they said yes. And part of that, I think, is reflected in the fact that the board and our organization has been restrained in the use of the benefit charge, and we haven't abused that. We have used it in a restrained, conservative fashion, and at least in my mind, it's a tool for the rainy day when the next recession comes, because it will come. But it's a great tool to have in the toolbox, and it's great to see that the voters appreciate that. It's a different way of obtaining revenue than a tax. It's different than a tax, and I think that's important. It's important to a lot of people in our community. So I think it is a great to see the community support South County Fire in that fashion. I did also want to thank, in particular, Pat Moore and Dave Johnson for their assistance also on the entire issue. So I appreciate our voters and the support. As you can see, not every the fact that we enjoy such a high level of support is a real it's a real credit, I think, to our community and also to our organization and everybody that works here. That we have that type of relationship and support from our community, and we look forward to more in the future. But it's also incumbent upon us then to deliver. We have a responsibility with that to deliver for our constituents, and I believe we have, and I believe we will continue to do so. So I just want to thank all of the voters for their support here at the primary election on our benefit charge renewal proposition. Any other commissioner comments?
I think we have
Commissioner Lawrence.
someone else joining us that wants to
Oh.
make a comment.
No comment. Commissioner Chan.
I just forgot, God, 6 years ago was already with benefit charge. It's just amazing. Commissioner Kenny and I kind of did that initial signs. I still have signs in my garage, but I trust that labor now did it in time. We don't have to do. But I always explain to people we're shifting is equitable because we're shifting the tax burden from the residential to the commercial to special like people, the usage of the equipment and thing. I think to me that's a very good way. Our citizen really enjoy that. I'm glad that they approved the renewal. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the kind comments about the staff. There's a tremendous amount of work, just educating, clarifying, answering questions, and they work really hard behind the scenes. So thank you for acknowledging that, and hopefully we'll keep working really hard. I know we will to keep providing just that excellent service that people do want to support. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? No, that is our last item of business. Our regular meeting is our workshop meeting next, regular workshop meeting next Tuesday, 7 p.m. right back here. And so without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.